I wanted to send you a personal greeting. We were thinking this week about the uniqueness of the Passover and Pentecost experience because a friend of mine who's Jewish said, Lance, it's the first time in 3,500 years that Israel was required to be indoors. Benjamin Netanyahu, because of the quarantine, made every Jew stay indoors. So the Passover was observed just as the Jewish people did 3,500 years ago. Now, the Christians also were indoors for this Passover. And what my Jewish friend said is, this wasn't a feast that was celebrated or commemorated, it was experienced. So April 6th, I guess, was it April 16th, around then, would have been the time of the Easter celebration for Christians. It was Passover for the Jewish people. But what I think is so powerful about this moment that's coming up is that Passover was indeed experienced. And I can remember different prophets saying that God was going to deal decisively with this virus and begin to break it up. And we did pray. We prayed for God to cause this plague to pass over. And something did begin to shift right then. And now the question is, the next feast, which is totally independent of Passover, which is the feast of the blood of the Lamb, it was the sacrifice of Christ. It's the empowerment that came in the upper room. And that's going to show up May 31st is the date for Pentecost. And the question he had was, if Passover was an experience for the believer, is it possible that Pentecost is going to be not just a feast day to celebrate, but it's going to be just like the upper room where those Christians were gathered? Is it possible that the power of God is going to come down and begin the awakening, the piercing of conscience that is needed in America? And I want to make this distinction. This experience of Pentecost coming May 31st, we believe is going to be a infusion of the power of God upon the body of Christ to be a bold witness, and perhaps for the first time, we're going to find our voice speaking with not only boldness, but with an element of conviction that is in us and coming through us. Because May 31st, curiously enough, is the date that was chosen by pastors throughout the United States to have church, regardless of whether or not their state authorizes or gives permission for them to do so. This began in California, and I'm so proud of my friends in California for starting this, because California gets such a bad rap because of all the craziness that is, from the left coast out there. But here you've got the believers standing, praying for their state, praying for God to move. Passover was experienced. Pentecost, I believe, is going to be the experience for those who prepare themselves. I'm taking this so seriously, I'm starting to do some fasting and getting in condition to really intensely seek the Lord. But I want you with me when we do this, because we're going to have some very powerful reformers, voices that have been bold and courageous. Mario Murillo, for instance, Robert Henderson, Jeremiah Johnson, my friend Mario Bramnick. We're going to be able to bring them together for a special live broadcast on May 31st, 6 o'clock Central. And I want you there. I want you to sign up to make sure you're alerted and you're present and you're hearing, and we're praying together on this historic day. And you can actually sign up for it so you'll get the alert. It's going to be at asoneawakening.com. That's asoneawakening.com. And we're going to do this together. We're going to pray together. We're going to seek the Lord together. And I believe that we're going to be contending for the breaking open of the United States. We are in a race. It's such an unusual time. We're in a race really against time for the reopening of America, because our economic infrastructure, having been gutted by $5 or $6 trillion worth of our strength, if the infrastructure is not restored and brought about in June, many economists believe that we're going to see ourselves irreparably set back with unemployment and with economic woes for the future. The church is the decisive agent that's going to make a difference. That's why this Pentecost Sunday is going to be historic. Let's do it together.